there's a really cool story with BRINC, and this, the heritage of the company is just fascinating. It's just a great story. Can you talk about how you helped bring these drones into the tactical world and how it came to be for you guys?
Well, I mean, I appreciate, you trying to give me credit for that, but it wasn't me essentially that brought him into the tactical world. I just, I happen to answer my phone, right? And, I've always, I've had mentors that gave me that advice to have an open door policy to answer your phone when people call. And I'll get into that and how that, helped me with some of my decision making the night of our mass shooting here. But essentially, after that shooting, which was the first weekend that I had been handed the reins as the SWAT lieutenant, which is a tactical commander here in Las Vegas. That was my third day in charge of the team, and we got it handed to us. We got it handed to us. I mean, an agency that I feel, and I can say this after traveling, there's a lot of professional organizations around the world in terms of policing. I just don't know if anyone's doing it better than we're doing it here in Las Vegas. I know that a lot of agencies are there neck and neck, but to say that anyone's doing it better than the folks here in this city, I don't know that I can say that confidently. So, for us who, we stood up active shooter response program, MACTAC, we called it, right? It's called other things now in various parts of the country and the world. But we were proactive in that after the Mumbai attack went down, and we prided ourselves on being ready for the big day. And, we were beat that night by an amateur, essentially, right? So that sort of sent us reeling internally. I realized I got a heavy dose of reality in terms of this is what you're in charge of. When things become overwhelming for the initial patrol response, when you show up, you better know what you're doing. You better be prepared. You need to be forward leaning. And in order to be forward leaning, it implies that you're empowered to make decisions. You've handled the expectations that your staff has of you, community has of you, that the team has of you. And I can tell you that after experiencing that, and we'll get into it, but it sort of ruined me in terms of balance, right? When 58 people, and now the number is 60, but when 58 that night are killed on your watch, you never want that to happen again, right?
That's a lot to shoulder for sure.
Yeah, and then when you drive past Mandalay Bay every day to work, right? It's in your face. It never leaves, and you see the men and women that responded, and you run into people in the community that were victims. There was an obsession to ensure it didn't happen again.
Yeah, and
so fast forward to a phone call. And when I talk about obsession, and the reason I'm saying that is because it's not because I'm trying to glorify my work ethic, because it was not healthy at all. What I'm trying to do is convey that to the other folks who are going to experience this as well.
Yeah.
And who already have.
It's inevitable.
And who already have. And it's the same realization that we have in police work that we're taught in the academy. Be hypervigilant. Don't ever let them catch you slipping. And then you lose a friend who was tactical. Mm-hmm. And you're like, how could that have happened? It's because we don't have as much control as we think we have.
Yeah. Enemy gets a vote.
Yeah, that's right. And at the end of the day, we're in marked cars with lights on top, and we wear uniforms that are easily identified. I mean, I used to ride bikes on the strip. They called us bumblebees. I wore a yellow shirt. They saw us coming a mile away. Mm-hmm. Everyone can get the drop on us whenever they want. And that's this very sobering realization that hits. And that night it hit me, and then I looked in the faces of the men and women as they came back from clearing the hotel. This is the reason I'm saying that it's an obsession, because it's unhealthy, and it's something I'm still dealing with today, quite frankly.
definitely comes at a cost.
No doubt. And, but what it did also was we threw out the rule book in terms of how we can get better. We have this forgiveness over permission approach, whether it was okay or not. I took a phone call from a young man. He hadn't turned 18 yet when he called. And he says, introduced himself, said he'd like to build us a robot. And I thanked him for his call. But, to put it in perspective, it's one of the busiest SWAT teams in America, right? I mean, 300 plus search warrants a year and 50 to 60 barricades a year. And unfortunately, 8 to 12 hostage rescues a year, 1 or 2 active shooters a year, right? It's the top third percentile in terms of just volume. Yeah. It doesn't make them better. It just means I get a lot of volume, right? And so I did my best to kind of encourage him, but say, just too busy, buddy.
Yeah.
Right. And, so my boss gets a call, because one thing Blake is, and the young man's name is Blake Resnick. He is persistent. Right. And my boss says, just go have coffee with the kid, Will. And I'm like, well, look, you have and this was Chris Tomino, right? He was my captain at the time. He's an excellent leader. I said, well, you got the checkbook, boss, so you're coming. He's like, fine,
I'll do it, but you're coming too.
Yeah. So we met at the Einstein Bagel up on Westlake Mead. It was Blake and his dad. And I sat across from this kid, and he's larger than life with his hair, and I was talking to him.
We'll show you guys a picture here in the video.
Yeah, definitely. And, when you work in public safety, you're used to people lying to you, right? And so he sort of gave us verbally his CV. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Of course, I open web searched him in the parking lot as I'm walking to my car after we wrapped up. But I found out, from the ages of 14 to 17, he had worked with McLaren, DJI, and Tesla. And he said, he wanted to build us something, and he assumed strength. It wasn't like, I think I can. It was like, I can build you guys something that'll help you get down the hallway. And I said, well, there's a lot you need to know about that hallway and all the circumstances around that, because, you don't know what you don't know.
The whole thing. Yeah.
but let's give it a try. And fast forward to a couple of iterations of his hardware. He's built a drone, and Las Vegas Metro's SWAT team received the 2 drones after I had already left. But I stayed in touch with him during that formative process. And now, because it was designed by the members of the SWAT team here, it was designed by them and the surveillance team, which flies the drones. It was even named by the surveillance team, the lemur. It was really a solution to legitimate problems that Blake himself saw. He saw 2. He went out on nearly 24 call-outs on a ride-along waiver.
It's a heck of a ride-along.
Well, I mean, that's something we wouldn't have normally done.
Right.
We didn't lose 58 people in one night.
Fair enough.
Do you understand? So it changed our frame of mind. But yeah, that's the genesis of the company. I stayed in touch with him. He says, listen, and this is all candid, man. He's like, he called me because I left SWAT and I was running the union, our supervisor's union, helping to run it. And he says, would you come out on these product demonstrations with us? Because they don't believe us that other SWAT teams are using this drone. Well, there's no footage, right? It's all flown inside. There's no proof that it's being done. And I says, absolutely not. I don't want to sell drones, Blake, but I will introduce you to friends that I met in the business, because everyone's in the tactical world. You have large sort of best practice bodies like the NTOA and other tactical officer associations, and we all train together. So I introduced him to folks. He went out on a couple more demos and they didn't go well because, we're a tough crowd.
Yeah.
Right. Extremely difficult. It would cut off our nose to spite our face. Right. And
cops in general, but SWAT guys in particular.
Yeah. And so the third time he called, what if you just come and stand in the room while we're doing the product demonstration? And then when they inevitably ask, well, who else is using this? Then you can chime in and say, look, I can vouch for this. That, you know, this is my experience with it, and that's what I started consulting with, and you know, for them, and that relationship has continued. So now, you know, they're in a place where they can't build them fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've gotten to tour the production facility here in Las Vegas where you guys are cranking these things out. And it's a lot because everything is built and assembled and it's all right here.
And what's cool, man, is like, I'm a fan of The Greatest Generation, you know, and to walk into the shop back there and to see Americans building American technology for American public safety. And now they're going international, you know, what we are. And it's just super exciting, and it connects me to previous generations. It's just a special feeling around here.